Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. This is Ahmed Saeed. We will continue on our session today with Dynamics 5 Finance and Operation SSRS reports. We talked in our last session how we can create a report using data provider. Now in our session today we will talk how we can include the contract as we talked in the elements session. The contract is the class or the element in the report which is responsible for creating a parameters for the report. So now in our report here, once we generated the report, we didn't have any parameters here. And suppose now we started with the customer and we have a huge number of records existing in our system. And the user or the customer just need to extract the data for a specific period. For example, they need from date to date a parameter. So here, let's discuss today how we can add a contract or a parameters to our report. First of all, we have to create a contract class and we need to define this contract class in our DB here and use the values will be passed from the user to the parameter to filter our query here or our code here. So to create a parameters for our report, we have to create a contract class. So let's start with creating the contract class. It will be a class and the name, for example, will be sales invoice in contract. And as we notice here, we added at the end of the class the type of the class as we did on the DB. It's very, very important to add the name or the type of the class or the element here at the end of the class to be easy in the future. If we need to just make any modification, it will be easy for us to determine which class is the DB class and which class is the contract class. So here we will add the contract class, and here to notify the compiler, this class will be a contract or act as a contract class as a parameter class. We have to here add the prefix for it. So here we will say it's this class will be data contract attribute. We can keep it as data contract and we can add attribute here. It's very easy. Now, in our scenario here, or in our example here, we need to add just two parameters. The first one will be from date, and the second one will be to date. So here we have to define in the beginning here, after we add the prefix for the class, we have to define two variables. The two variables here will be the same type what we need in the parameter. So here it will be date. So here we will make it invoice date and we'll add from date. The second one will be to date. Now we defined all the variables which will be used in our parameters. We just have two variables from date and to date. The second thing here, we have to define the methods which will get the value from the end user and will be used on the DB. So here we have to define here data. Add a prefix for the method will be data member attribute, and we have another additional prefix here could be used to enhance the parameters while shown to the end user. So we have here one of this prefix is sys. Suppose now we need to define a specific label to our parameter while shown to the end user. So here it will be sys operation label label attribute, and this method is take parameter with a string, so it will be from date. Another one here is the sorting of the parameters. So suppose we have many parameters and we need to sort these parameters while shown to the user on the screen. So here the second one we can use is sys operation display order attribute, and here it just take a string parameter and will be a number, so it will be one. This is the first parameter will be shown to the end user. And here let's start with our method structure. Our method will be public, and it will take the same type for the variables which we added here, so it will be invoice date, and let's make it bar from date. And here inside this method will take a parameter. So here we will define a parameter for this method. It will be also with the same type for the method and the parameter, and we'll make it if, and it will equal to from date which we added on the top. And here our variable which will be from date will equal to the value will pass to this variable or this parameter, so it will equal f, and then we will return from date. So this is our first method. We will take this method because the second one will be with the same structure, and we have an error here. Okay, we will fix it later. So this one will be for the label will be to date, and here the sort will be to, and let's change the name of the method. Here it will be to, and this variable or the parameter will be t, and also it will equal to date which we added on the top. Let's change it here also. So let's explain our methods again. We have or our contract again. We have to define the data contract attribute prefix before the class. Let's remove the attribute from here, and then we have to define all the if we have 5 parameters, 6 parameters, we have to define a variables for these parameters uh, with the same type which we will use. So here we just have 2 parameters from date to date. So we define 2 variables with the data type invoice date, and we started to add the prefix before the method. Here we have to define it with data member attribute, and here for this operation label attribute, this is the label which will be shown while generating the report to the end user. And here we can control, if we have many parameters, we can control the sort of the parameters by using this operation display order attribute. And here it just take a string, but this string should be a number. So this is the first parameter, and this is will be the second parameter. Inside the method, we will just define a method will be public and with the same data type for the variable, and we can make it, for example, bar from date. And here we will this method will take a parameter. It will just get and set the parameters according to we need. We will this method will get the parameters from the end user, and it will pass it to the DB as we will see to just filter the data. So now we finished the data contract. Let's go to the DB and check how we can map this contract to our DB. So after we finish the contract, we have to just build the project to make sure that there is no any issue in the contract or in the code. So let's now start with adding the contract which is responsible for the parameters in our DB. So here we have to add the prefix before the class, the DB class. It will be SRS report data parameter, report parameter, sorry, SSRS report parameter. And here inside this we will define our contract class. So it will be class str, and inside it we will define sales invoice, train, contract. Now we added the class, our contract class here. Let's add attribute here. Okay, so here we add the contract class to the DB. So let's start to define the parameters and use these parameters. So to define the parameters, we have to take an object from our contract class. So here we will add sales, invoice, train, contract. We will rename it to be contract, and we will define this contract or assign a value to this contract. It will equal this for the DB class dot bar data contract. So there is an standard method which called parameter barm data contract. It's existing on the standard class, this class, and according to this declaration, it will get the contract which we defined here and the prefix for the class and assign it to the contract here. Also here we will define two variables for the dates which we added in the contract. So here we will define invoice date will be from date and to date. So let's start with assign the values which will be passed from the user on the contract while generating the report to this variable. So the from date variable will equal to the contract dot bar from date which we defined in the contract, and to date will equal to the contract dot bar to date. So here, once the user passes the parameter to the report, as we will see later while generating the report, it will take this parameter from the contract and assign it to the variables which we define from date and to date. So we can easily use these variables if we just go to our query here which we created, and here we will just add and. So we will need to filter the custom voyager according to the from date and to date. So here custom voyager dot invoice date greater than or equal to from date, and cast voyager dot invoice date will less than or equal to date. So here we added a range for the filtration for the date which we added to our contract class and assign this to the DB, and then we used this variables or these parameters here in our query or in our code. So let's save it and let's to build the DB, and after build the DB we will go to the sales invoice DB report which we added, and we have to just restore the data source. We will click here on the sales invoice and restore it to just add the parameters which we just added in the DB. So if we expand the parameters, we will find here our two parameters from date and to date is already added to the report parameters. So let's build the project and deploy the report and check the result together. So here, after we build the report and deployed it, let's go to our system here under account receivable, and here we added our report here for sales invoices, and as we can see here we have now a parameter in our report from date to date. So let's say, for example, take a range from the 1st of Jan to 27th of November, and let's generate the report. So here, as we can see here, we just have the records for the specific period which we added. We have just 14 pages. If we just to make sure that the date is working fine and we make it, for example, 24 and press OK, we will find here the number of pages is different from the other one. That is mean the parameter is working fine with us. So here in our session today, we now discovered together how we can add a contract class which is responsible for the parameters to uh, our report, and how we can use it in the DB, and then we tested it in our report.